Welcome to the other side of the story, where every story opens the door to a deeper conversation. Today we're exploring It's Not Your Fault by T.A. Vale, a powerful book about healing, identity, and breaking the cycles that shape us. Let's join the conversation.
Have you ever, thought you'd completely outrun some painful season from your past? And
But
then,
then it just suddenly rises up during some completely random argument.
exactly. Or maybe, you're watching your kid go through something, and out of nowhere, you feel this intense, just unexpected reaction rise up in your own chest.
Yeah, it's that startling realization that the past isn't actually past. I mean, it's really just been sitting quietly in the passenger seat,
Right.
just waiting for the exact right trigger to grab the steering wheel.
It's so true. Because you build a life, a career, a family, and you just assume you've left all those old shadows behind you.
But the reality is that the momentum of that old pain is still running right there in the background.
Yeah, and that is exactly what we are unpacking today in this deep dive. We're looking at T.A. Vale's incredibly raw book, It's Not Your Fault, Breaking Free from the Lies That Defined You.
Such a powerful book.
It really is. We're exploring what Vale calls the long tail of trauma. And specifically, we're looking at what happens when we just flat out refuse to face the massive looming giants from our childhood.
Right, because this deep dive isn't just about looking backward for the sake of, nostalgia or regret or something.
No, not at all.
It's about understanding how the lies that are formed in our childhood secretly write the scripts for our adult identities.
They dictate our relationships, our reactions,
And if left unchecked, they actually write the scripts for future generations.
yeah. So let's just jump right into the origin of Vale's specific lie, like the moment the giant first cast its shadow.
Good place to start.
He takes us back to when he was just 5 years old. His family was living in military base housing in Okinawa, Japan. And behind their neighborhood, there was this mountain filled with old World War II bunkers.
Which, I mean, that looks like an absolute dream playground to a kid, right?
Well, completely.
But obviously it carries immense danger.
Right. So one day, while he's exploring, an older boy approaches 5-year-old Vale. And Vale remembers this with, cinematic clarity. He says the boy had blonde hair, blue eyes, and was wearing blue Converse shoes.
Wow, those specific details just stick with you.
They really do.
Mm.
So this older boy lures Vale deep into the woods, separates him from his brothers, and essentially holds him hostage.
A literal hostage situation.
Yeah. And when the neighborhood search party, which, includes Vale's absolutely terrified family, when they get close, the older boy covers Vale's mouth.
Oh, man.
And he whispers that if he makes a single sound, he will kill him.
I mean, the pure terror of a 5-year-old in that moment is almost unimaginable.
It's heartbreaking.
His nervous system is completely overwhelmed. He's just frozen.
Right. But eventually, the older boy just lets him go. So Vale walks out of the woods. He's crying. He's completely confused. He sees his parents.
And naturally, as a little kid, you expect comfort in that moment.
Exactly. You expect your dad to sweep you up and, tell you you're safe now. But instead, his father grabs him by the arm, drags him home, and spanks him with this wooden apple-shaped cutting board. And he actually doesn't stop until the cutting board physically breaks and Vale's mother has to step in.
What's fascinating here is, if we look closely at the psychological disconnect, it's just profound. Because as adults, we can look at that father's reaction and recognize it for what it is, right?
A man who'd spent hours believing his son might be dead.
Exactly. He was experiencing profound, just overwhelming fear.
Yeah.
But because he didn't have the emotional tools to process that terror, it expressed itself as physical violence and anger.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. I want to look at the mechanics of what happened in that child's brain. Because a 5-year-old cannot comprehend that, right?
No, not at all.
They can't understand the complex emotion of a father's profound fear masquerading as anger. I imagine it's like putting on a pair of prescription glasses with the wrong lenses.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. From that day forward, every single thing you look at is distorted. You think you're seeing the world clearly, but the lens itself is warped. It's like a programmer writing a faulty line of foundational code into a software program.
Yeah, you might not see the bug immediately.
Exactly, but eventually, everything built on top of it is going to glitch.
A warped lens or a glitch, it's the perfect way to understand that cognitive shift. The child's mind has to simplify the trauma just to make sense of the world.
So how did his brain simplify it?
Well, Vale's young brain processed the sequence of events like this I was scared, I was found, and then I was brutally punished.
Right.
And so the conclusion settled deep into his heart, creating this defining lie. And the lie was, something bad happened to me, therefore it must be my fault.
Wow.
Yeah, it creates a false sense of control. If it's my fault, the brain reasons, then maybe I can prevent it from happening again by being better or faster or just quieter.
But wait, how does a single terrifying moment like that manage to hide in the background of someone's life for literally decades without them noticing the glitch? I mean, if you put on warped glasses, you notice immediately that your vision is blurry. Why doesn't the adult realize the lens is distorted?
Because the lie hides by disguising itself as personality.
Oh, wow. Disguising itself as personality.
Yeah. There is a massive difference between someone who experiences pain and someone who becomes their pain.
Right.
You don't wake up one day and decide, hey, I'm going to build my entire adult identity around this childhood wound.
Nobody does that on purpose.
Exactly. It happens through these really subtle daily adjustments. You figure out ways to keep that wound from ever being touched again.
Mm-hmm.
And those defensive adjustments, repeated over years and years, eventually harden into who you appear to be.
So the pain basically morphs into coping mechanisms.
Exactly.
And in Vale's case, he talks about his specific escapes. Like, he built his entire identity around performance. He chased money. He chased status.
Right, the classic overachiever.
Yeah, he talks about buying this beautiful Mercedes just to prove he had, quote-unquote, made it.
But the poignant part is, that car just sits in his garage today.
Yeah, because it didn't fix the internal distortion at all.
Yeah.
And when the performance wasn't enough to quiet that feeling of not being enough, he turned to alcohol.
And Vale is very careful to clarify here that the drinking wasn't really about the alcohol itself.
No?
It was about securing maybe 30 minutes to 2 hours where the crushing weight of his life finally went quiet.
Right, it turned the volume down.
Exactly. It turned the volume down on the guilt, the anxiety, the sense of failing in his relationships.
But the thing is, that quiet is just an illusion. You're basically just hitting the mute button on a movie that's still playing in the background.
Precisely. Because, as he says, relief is borrowed from dinero. Everything that went quiet comes back much louder the next morning.
Yeah.
Every escape behavior you use, whether that's drinking, overworking, endless scrolling on your phone.
Or even obsessively fixing other people's problems so you don't have to look at your own.
Yes. All of it is just a flashing signal pointing directly to an unaddressed reality. Sobriety and honesty are two completely different things.
That's a huge point.
You can stop the behavior, right? You can stop drinking or overeating.
Right.
But without addressing the underlying wound, you will inevitably just find a new escape.
Okay, I have to push back here on behalf of the listener for a second.
Sure.
I imagine someone listening might say, well, my coping mechanism is my intense ambition. I built a great, highly successful career out of my fear of not being enough. Is that really so dangerous if the outcome looks, productive and socially acceptable?
That's a fair question. But yes, it is dangerous. Because unfaced giants do not stay in your lane.
They don't stay at the office.
Exactly. A giant is any unaddressed wound or pattern. And if you refuse to process it, it doesn't just sit there quietly.
It demands to be fed.
Right. And eventually, it moves down the family line to your children or your spouse. A successful career built on terror might look great on a resume, but it destroys the inner life of the person living it.
And the people living with them. Which is exactly what happened when Vale took that same performance mindset home to his first marriage.
Yeah, that was a tough realization for him.
He had this deep conviction that he was not going to repeat his father's angry, violent behaviors.
Yeah.
And, he didn't hit his kids, he didn't rage, but he passed down an adjacent wound, which was emotional unavailability.
Because silence is a teaching, right?
Yes. The silence he learned as a survival tactic in those woods and in his childhood home became the silence he brought right into his adult relationships.
Mm-hmm.
His ex-wife experienced him as physically present, sure, but emotionally he was just managing everything. He was just performing the role of a husband.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture of family dynamics, children are essentially emotional barometers.
Oh, completely.
Long before they have the vocabulary to explain it, they are reading the room, they pick up on microexpressions. If a parent flinches at conflict or carries this unspoken heavy tension into a room, the child learns that hard emotions are dangerous.
Yeah, you can try incredibly hard not to repeat what was done to you. But if you are just managing your damage rather than healing it, your children will absolutely absorb the emotional subtext.
It's basically emotional secondhand smoke.
Oh, that's such a good way to put it. You might not be intentionally handing your child your anxiety, but if you're carrying it in the house, they're still breathing it in.
They really are. They don't know why they feel anxious. They just know the air in the house feels heavy.
Right. And Vale makes this incredibly powerful statement here. He says breaking the cycle doesn't require a perfect parent.
Thank goodness.
Right. It just requires an honest one. A parent who can look at their child and say, I was wrong, or I am struggling right now, and it's not your fault.
That kind of honesty is profound. A child who watches their parent face something difficult, own their mistakes, and come out the other side, they learn that hard things are survivable.
Yes. That is the inheritance that breaks the cycle.
Not the absence of struggle, but the presence of someone actively feeling it.
So what does it actually take to stop managing the damage and finally confront these giants? Because for Vale, it took a massive collision.
And a total collapse.
Yeah, it took losing everything he thought defined him. He recounts this devastatingly clarifying conversation he had with his second ex-wife. They were sitting there, and she just looked at him and said, if you hadn't lost all the money, we'd still be together.
Just brutal honesty.
Brutal. But Vale didn't get angry. He simply replied, thank you.
Wow. Why did he say thank you?
Because in that exact moment, he realized his lifelong secret belief was actually true. His value was entirely tied to his ability to provide and succeed.
He was asking his bank account and his accomplishments to answer the question, am I enough?
Exactly. If he was producing, he mattered. If he lost it, he was nothing.
But as he points out, success is just a terrible identity. When the noise stopped and he was finally alone, he realized he wasn't chasing success. He was chasing significance.
He was trying to prove he had value to cover up that childhood wound.
Yeah.
It's one thing to realize success is a terrible identity,
Right.
and that your foundation is totally flawed. But, how exactly do you build a real one?
It's tough.
Right, because you can't just delete a decades-old belief system without installing a new one. Nature abhors a vacuum.
This is where Vale's journey shifts from, just psychological insight to a deeply spiritual framework. He realized he couldn't fix his identity with his own tools. He had to find it in Christ.
And part of that spiritual mechanism involved basically redefining the villain of his story.
Yes.
He shares this really poignant story about his father on his deathbed. His father is confined to a wheelchair. His body is failing. And he finally looks at Vale, calls him by name, and says, I love you, son.
Mm-hmm.
And Vale realizes something huge. His father wasn't a monster. He was a wounded man parenting with broken tools.
The father wasn't the lie. The lie was what Vale believed because of what happened. And separating those two things allowed him to step into actual forgiveness.
And that forgiveness really opened the door. The book brings in this beautiful metaphor of kintsugi.
Oh, I love this part.
Right, the Japanese art form where they repair broken bowls with gold. So the cracks aren't hidden. They actually become part of the beauty.
Because God doesn't waste the broken pieces of our stories. He redeems them. The gold in the cracks represents a healing process that makes the vessel stronger.
And Vale points to literal miraculous healing in his own life as proof of this. Like his PSA levels, which are a marker for prostate cancer, shot up to a dangerous 15. Normal is around 2.5 or 3.5.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. But instead of managing it alone like he usually would, he leaned into his faith community, he asked for prayer, and within 1 week his levels dropped to a normal 3.5.
For him, that was God meeting him precisely when he stopped managing everything alone.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Vale doesn't portray this healing as some magic spell that fixes everything overnight.
No, it's a daily, gritty decision.
Exactly. It's whispering the name Jesus when the old lies knock on the door. He points to Romans 12.2, renewing the mind to choose God's truth over the childhood lie, day after day.
Actively choosing, in real time, to remember who he belongs to now.
So, bringing all of this back to you, the listener, the profound hope of this deep dive is that no matter what chapters of your life look like, or what you've inadvertently passed down without meaning to,
The cycle can end with you.
yes, the momentum of decades of trauma can be interrupted by one person deciding to stop, look, and be honest.
Your identity is not found in your wounds, and it's not found in your ability to be perfect. Healing is just becoming who God created you to be before the lie ever showed up.
So think about the behaviors you use to turn down the volume on reality. If those escape behaviors are actually a signal pointing toward an unaddressed giant in your life, what would happen to your future and the generation coming after you if you finally offer that giant a seat at the table, asked for its name, and brought it into the light?